Texas and Oklahoma have announced, along with the Big 12 Conference, after paying $100 million to the Big 12 Conference to do so, that they will leave after the 2023 season, which means they will be members of the SEC beginning in the summer of 2024. Jarom, what does that mean for the future of the Big 12 Conference?
It means BYU just got the 1 year, right, to play with Texas and Oklahoma in the various sports. We think about football primarily. Basketball will be fun. Women's volleyball with Texas is incredible. Oklahoma and Texas in softball, incredible. There are a bunch of sports where it will be fun to compete. Now we know. We thought it would be 2 at first. Then it was like, okay, maybe it's just 1. I guess Oklahoma ponied up the money. Texas could always afford it. But now we know. And it was great that BYU got Texas and Oklahoma in year 1 in football. That way, you got them.
The only one of the newbies to do so.
And Oklahoma on senior day will be awesome. And at Texas, of course, is a game that BYU's always embraced, having played there a couple of times in independent. So, yeah. And here's the thing. We know it's going to be super wide open in this league, to the benefit and detriment of the league. The Pac-12 hasn't produced too many playoff teams recently because they kind of eat their own. I think the Big 12 will probably do that quite a bit. TCU had a special run this year, being able to get in undefeated, lose the Big 12 title game, still got in because undefeated. They were lucky there weren't like 4 undefeateds, but it's hard to go undefeated. Ask BYU in '84. Only done it 1 time. So it'll be fun to hang out with the rich dad on some weekends, a.k.a. Texas and Oklahoma. And then eventually your parents get divorced and they go move somewhere else. And we kind of move on with our lives. But I'm excited that we know we have the 1 year with those 2. Huge brands in college football and basketball and everything else like we talked about. It's going to be fun to have the 1 year. I wish it was 2, honestly. But eventually they move on, and so does BYU and everybody else.
It makes sense. The divorced household figured out how to expedite the paper signing so that the 2 parts can mutually separate.
Sometimes divorce is good. It's not always bad.
I don't know that it's going to be a great thing for Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC.
Competitively, no. Financially, yes.
For sure. Yeah.
Like Texas needed more money. They're going to be just fine.
I'm excited that BYU gets 1 shot at all of the Oklahoma and Texas teams to win a conference championship. Specifically, women's soccer and women's volleyball. I'm glad that BYU has the shot at Texas in volleyball specifically.
They're amazing.
For sure. So I'm glad that BYU has 1 shot to win conference titles with Texas and Oklahoma in conference. That's really fun. I guess my biggest question mark is, what does it mean for the future of Big 12 expansion? We're seeing conferences go to 16 teams now. The SEC with Texas and Oklahoma will be 16 teams. The Big 10, once USC and UCLA depart, will be 16 teams.
Rutgers and Maryland count then?
Apparently.
Okay.
Brett Yormark has said the Big 12 is open for business. He wants to shop knowing that now things are official beginning in 2024 that he only has 12 teams. Now he can go say, well, maybe we do pursue heavily a 16-team conference approach, and they go heavily after 4 teams in the Pac-12.
Or the 4. Oh, in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Yes. Those are yes. I want 4. Just give me the 4 corners.
That's what it means to me is it now gives Brett Yormark that much more motivation to go and be aggressive because it's happening. It's happening a year early, so you can go and say with confidence to these other teams, we'll be 12 teams in the summer of 2024. Do you want to make us a 14-team conference? Do you want to make us a 16-team conference?
Oregon, Washington, Arizona State would be the ideal setup.
Yes, because he wants to be publicly stated in 4 time zones. What if Cal and Stanford are interested? Would the Big 12 be interested in the Bay Area?
To me, they're the 5th and 6th best options.
But if it's the only option to get into that Pacific time zone and pull in Power 5 members, just maybe. Arizona and Arizona State have their own time zone, so I don't know if they apply.
6 months out of the year.
5 time zones.
I know. I call my mom, and I'm like, what time is it there?
I have no idea
I
what
forget.
time it is.
Yeah, I know it's the same time right now. Yeah,
the Big 12 can be in 5 time zones. There's Arizona and then across the board. But yes,
at least it's not Newfoundland, which is half an hour different. I kid you not.
That's real.
It's very odd.
They're the edge of the
province
earth.
in Canada.
Ask Tyler Haas. He played in Newfoundland
there
for a few months. Very special experience for him when you talk to him about it.
What time is it?
It's like 1:30 in the afternoon there.
Right now it's 1:38.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wild. Oregon and Washington, yes, are absolutely the gems remaining in the Pac-12.
For sure.
If they are interested in joining the Big 12, then that absolutely would happen. Brett Yormark is like, yes, we're up. Come on in.
That'd be amazing.
Let's do this. And bring over the Arizona schools. We're a 16-team conference, and now it gets very interesting. Utah and Colorado are an interesting combination in the Intermountain West. I know that there are people that feel like Colorado should go back to the Big 12 because the roots are there. Like they were a longtime member of the Big 12.
Big 8 and all that.
And we've heard Joel Klatt on Fox Sports, who's a prominent college football analyst, say he believes, and he has talked with, obviously because he's a Colorado guy, that he believes strongly that Colorado is in talks to join the Big 12. But is it a package deal with Utah? And does that mean that the Arizona schools come over? I don't know. But to me, this means that you can just more aggressively approach it. And I think at some point the Big 12 will become a 16-team conference.
It makes sense.
Probably in the next 3 years. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen sometime in the next 3 years.
It's contingent on Oregon and Washington making a move or not.
They want to go to the Big Ten, but the Big Ten has not invited them. So that tells me that they probably don't want them.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Does something change? What's going to change? When BYU got the invite, it's because of another domino. So what other domino falls to induce more expansion? That's the question that I think we need to find out, right?
And what does the Pac-12 do? Is this...
All they need is one or two teams leave, and it changes everything.
Then it becomes...
It could get weird.
Really, really...
But if you're Washington State, you're like...
Tough.
Let's just stay here, guys. Oregon State, everything's great, right? Even Cal and Stanford. Cal and Stanford have been less powerful in this conversation than I could have ever imagined.
How about that? You know,
they're not players in this, really.
And specific markets.
No one's like, dude, we need you two.
You get the Bay Area market. It's like, nah, the Bay Area is a pro sports market. It's not about Cal and Stanford. Have you been to games at Cal and Stanford? It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for those fan bases, and I feel bad for the teams that have to show up and play in front of no fans.
They used to be more competitive in some of the higher profile sports. Obviously, Stanford's athletic program is one of the tops in the country. They're unbelievable. But we're talking about football mainly here.
Really fun that BYU gets OU in Texas for a shot at conference championships for at least 1 year.
Yeah.
And then we see with expansion, but things are absolutely on the move with Brett Yormark in control. That dude is a mover and a shaker. He's a hustler.
It doesn't just move or just shake. It's both.
He is a hustler.
Yeah.
I wish there was more hustle from last night on the basketball court.
I would too. Do we have to do this? We have to do it. What's the consequence of last night's 92-80 loss at Pepperdine?
Oh, boy. Well, first and foremost, BYU now, if we're being realistic, I think the best they can hope for is a fifth-place finish in WCCA.
Top four's out. Top four's out. See ya. At St. Mary's, who lost last night, by the way.
Yes, LMU beat St. Mary's.
So it's Gonzaga within one game now, but you're going to lose Moraga and Spokane. So top four's out. 5 seed.
It will take something special. It will take a road win against one of the top two teams in conference to put BYU back in a scenario where they feel like maybe there's a shot at a top 4 seed.
And we can't realistically project that right now. BYU just lost to a team that was 0-10 in league until Saturday.
And they needed a miracle to win that game against Portland. They needed a boneheaded play by a guy who lost control of his emotions.
Christian Scholand.
In a late moment, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes all it takes is one win for a team to kind of taste that, and then they get on a run. But BYU knew that. They were an 8-point favorite going in. I had a bunch of people saying, Spencer, you said it was a shocking result. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still shocked by it because they're 1-10.
Because they're 1-10 in the league.
And
why wouldn't it be?
BYU is an 8-point favorite on the road. And BYU had just beat LMU by 28 the week before, and it looked great against Pacific. This team, however, we know who they are on the road. We know who they are on the road, which is nothing close to what this BYU team is at home. And until they do something different, that narrative was going to remain. So why should we expect BYU to all of a sudden show up and beat Gonzaga? Though some fans are saying that would be the most BYU thing ever, to lose at Pepperdine and then go and beat Gonzaga.
Listen,
not this team.
When BYU beat Gonzaga before, they had some real talent on the squad. There were a couple guys that would dabble in the NBA. Right, in these circles.
Whether it was Haas or Collinsworth.
You just not have that guy on the roster at the moment. Now, in 4 years, is Jackson Robinson a G League? I don't know. But, no, this is the least talented Mark Pope team, right? This team is trying to figure some things out. they're gonna flirt with the NIT, maybe not getting it. But here, it's tough. They're trying to battle through some of this. We've seen some real highs. We've seen some real lows. Okay, consequences. 4th Q3 or Q4 loss of the year.
Yep.
BYU the previous 2 years was 26-1. Just didn't lose these type of games.
Yeah.
Now they're 11-4 this year in those games. Second worst loss by net rating, by the way, as of last night, 207 Pepperdine. South Dakota 312. That is the worst loss of the season, hands down. Don't argue with me.
Now, I don't know what you're talking about. I've totally forgotten about that loss.
BYU finishes 6-6 at Pepperdine as a member of the West Coast Conference. So worst record on the road in league as a member of the WCC. 2-9 in Moraga.
Yep.
And then, 3-8 in Spokane. Got to 3 years in a row, 15, 16, 17, right? And then, like you mentioned, probably going to be a 5 or 6 in the WCC tourney. NIT bubble. BYU's probably on the outs of the NIT at the moment. They have to climb in somehow. I looked last night again at last year's NIT. I didn't look at 21 because they did a shortened NIT, and then 2020 didn't have one, and I don't really care about 2019 at this point. There was only one team that had fewer than 21 wins that wasn't an automatic qualifier and not from a P6 league. It was Utah State, who had 18 wins. Everybody else that wasn't an automatic qualifier. What? There's automatic qualifier? If you're in a non-Power 6 league and you win the regular season,
you're
automatically qualify if you don't win your tourney to get in the NCAA tournament. VCU and Santa Clara had 21 wins, and they got in. Okay. Santa Clara, by the way, was what, the 3 seed last year? The 4 seed?
Yeah.
BYU was the 5, I believe. Yeah,
pacing for that again.
They had a really good year. Oh, by the way, they had a lottery pick in Jalen Williams of the Thunder, who's having a nice rookie season. It's going to be tough for BYU to make the NIT at this point. They got 4 games left, and Santa Clara and San Francisco are the home games. BYU lost to those teams on the road. Maybe they show up at home and win, and I think
they're going to, because BYU is a different team at home.
And then at St. Mary's and Gonzaga. So BYU is going to walk into Vegas probably 18-13 and need at least one win there to just maybe make the NIT. And maybe not making the NIT sort of shakes things in a way that BYU needs going to the Big 12. I don't know. I never like seeing BYU struggle, but I've mentioned this before. BYU needed 2017 to get to 2020 and 21. They needed to shake things up to get to those points. Like, you needed a restart. I don't know exactly what that looks like with men's basketball at this point, but certainly BYU needs to increase its talent and prepare itself for the Big 12. Final thought on last night. BYU will never have a loss like that ever again, Spence.
Because they won't have to play a game like that in
the Big 12, you will swallow a loss at West Virginia or Oklahoma or Baylor
medicine's a lot easier to take
than friggin' Pepperdine.
Yeah.
We will never have a loss like that again.
Oh.
That's the good news. Oh, we'll lose, but it won't be like that.
We obviously hope BYU can string something together special in Spokane on Saturday. That's a tall task.
I'm not doing the shaved head thing.
Back to football for our question of the day, and frankly, back to the Big 12 in general in all sports.
Every day.
How do you feel about Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 in the summer of 2024? At Sapporo Mochan on Twitter says, BYU will now have shorter road trips in the future to Tucson and Tempe.
Hey, there you go.
He's calling for the Arizona schools to join the Big 12.
Yeah. You know what the best league for BYU right now in terms of travel is? It's not even WCC. It's MPSF in men's volleyball.
Oh,
interesting. You go LA, Arizona, Bay Area.
Good times.
Basically.
Yeah. Easy travel.
Nice and easy.
Weigh in using hashtag